wealth, and you can imagine being forced to join, such clandestine, society. Or it was really just in his prime. He had so much to live for. He had so much to achieve, and at the end of the day, just because of some people who might have been, pushed to the wrong side because of issues in the society, because of, a lot of ills that happen in Nigeria here. They, joined all sort of cultism, and the guy was asked to join, and when he refused, he was beaten to a state where he eventually died.
Now, for me, when I actually saw that report, I felt the same way you felt. When I saw that report, something not adding up with the story is the fact that prior to this time, according to, the relative that broke the story, the school management had reached out to the parent or to the father of the deceased to say that the boy sustained injury when he was playing football.
So crazy.
And there's something very fishy about all of that.
They're trying to hide up something.
Something very fishy. And I'm hoping, and I'm also praying, because that's what we do, that this will not also be just one of those cases that we have.
It shouldn't be.
It should be thoroughly investigated. I'm hoping that the police would be up and about at this point in time, and that justice should be meted. Justice should be done. It's really, really sad. But, the issue of having courts and court-related activities in our secondary schools is not a new thing. We've had several reports across the entire federation, Abuja, Cross River State, Akwa Ibom. At the time, I even think that the Akwa Ibom State government actually enacted some kind of laws. There were some policies, to curb the activities of courts and court groups in secondary schools. Now, let's not forget that it started big with our universities. That's a tertiary institution. And of course, it has trickled down to, the secondary schools and even the primary schools. So I'm not actually not surprised. A lot of us can say, at 12, these things are still going on in our institution. But the truth is we constantly do not pay attention to it. And how can we pay attention to it when those who should be formulating policies and ensuring that these things don't happen are also, culprits, they are cultists. So how do you explain that? How do you now, for some of the governors, I would say you find out that you can't. So how do you stop it? But it's the fact that the culture of silence, we have been very silent about a lot of issues. And for every time we keep quiet, evil will continue to thrive in our society. Now, I know a lot of people will begin to make reference to the likes of Wole Soyinka and, the issue of fraternity and what have you. But if you want to begin to look at it and, how it started and what it was about, it is not what we're experiencing right now in Nigeria.
Not at all.
So it's really, really bad. Now, so this is actually a call. We are not paying attention. We are not paying attention as a government. We're not paying attention as, parents. We're not paying attention as everything, including the schools. Why would you even say that? So, like I said, in that story, there's something very fishy.
Yeah, it is indeed very
so
fishy.
this is not one of it. It's still a situation that's going on. If you go to several secondary schools, there have been reports. It's in public space. So this is not hearsay or...
No, it's not
trying to say facts. But the fact that we constantly have not done anything, over the years, over time, we haven't really paid attention. We continue to neglect all of these issues, and this is where we're heading. I really, really felt bad when I saw that picture. The young boy,
it was really a harrowing experience.
With a
yes, just a 12-year-old boy. But I'm glad you mentioned it's a call not just to the government, but then in the right way they should have. If the parents actually indeed, spend so much time to inculcate values and instill discipline in their children, and over time, even if you go to schools, you don't really want to be blown away or just carried away by one or two different peer pressure.
So see what's going on right now. If those who should protect us are also part of this system, how do you explain it? So it's difficult for you to come and say, don't be Wole Soyinka and all of that and all of that.
Just the members of the court had threatened that if he revealed what happened, that they were going to kill him. Imagine children with such sinister and terrible thoughts at that particular age, thinking of even killing, your fellow pupil or students at such age. Why would the thought of killing or maiming even come to your mind?
There was also a case at the time where a child was found in, I think in Cross River State, one of those schools in a local, Akpabuyo or Bakassi, one of them. I really can't remember now. She was actually found with a pistol, with a local gun. So a lot's going on in our institution.
So sad.
Secondary and primary school, the university, like I rightly mentioned, we're not paying attention.
No,
we don't care about
the things that matter.
And, gradually we're drifting. And to even think that, it feels like someone, because I don't want to say anything, and that's why I'm asking that the police should actually be up and doing. School management has a lot of questions to answer, because I don't, if the report is prior to this time, you call to say that the boy was playing football. Why all of the lies?
Why lie? That's
because
the thing. Why lie?
I keep saying that the support system that we have actually failed us. And you see institutions where the school fees is not a joke. You're paying in millions. Well, we probably need to move away from that, but hopefully.
What with the Lagos state government saying that as opposed to the 9 deaths that the report that we heard from the leaked report, just one person died. Mercy, people are indeed. We talked about this yesterday on the show, but then it is really alarming that things like this, things that border on human lives, things that border on our security, is just being toyed with, because I'm sure whoever had leaked that particular report just knew that something like this would happen. Maybe he or she had foreseen the fact that maybe government might come out and say that none of the killings, none of the shootings actually happened, and they had like a foresight and they went ahead to leak the report, because if they hadn't leaked the report, probably it would not even have known how far, that's a report, white paper would actually reveal or hide from us.
Well, the reaction that we're getting from the release of that white paper is, everyone seemed to be on the same page of saying,
true, I agree.
Government has not lived up to its expectation. A lot of persons still have died. A lot of persons lost their lives in the course of all of that. And it's really sad, and it would continue to be saddening that we're trying to push away justice. And the big question is, how do you now say, let's begin to have peace when there's no justice?
To heal
and that's
land,
because
like
we constantly don't pay attention. We encourage impunity. Who are we hiding? In a developed climate, in a society where things actually work and there are structures, and then the laws are very strong, we have strong institutions and not strong men. Because the case that we're faced with right now, with all of this, is a situation of it just shows you that in Nigeria we have strong men rather than strong institutions. And so our institutions are constantly weak, because these things don't always happen. Some of these countries that are thriving and then you have justice and all of that, it's not because, persons who are actually in this country fell from the sky. No, they didn't fall from the sky. They do have structures.
Humans as well.
Structures are working. And they have, over the years, you have structures that have built structures that are functional. And so that's just it. Really, really sad. But also interesting is the fact that, the Lagos state government has accepted some of the recommendation from that particular panel report, and they're saying they're going to implement it.
Why choose what you want to do and decide?
So it's like reading the Quran or reading the Bible and saying you're going to practice the one that you believe that suits you. But it still boils down to the fact that, you can't be a judge in your own case and expect justice. That is, the case with this particular white paper. But like we had our guest yesterday, Dele Farotimi, saying that, justice, no matter how long it would take, it would actually be served. So fingers are crossed, and we're hoping that justice will be served.
Mine already crossed. Also in the news, some sort of cheery news away from all of the gloom and all of the somber moment that we have seen or read in this social media space. Nigeria actually, or Nigerian actually did something very wonderful, that she beat Chinese to claim the powerlifting championship title, World Powerlifting Champion, and her name is Lucy Ejike. She dethroned defending champion China's Tan Yujia to take gold in a dramatic women's up to 67 kilograms event at the World Powerlifting Championship in Tbilisi. Ejike, who won bronze in the under 61 category or kg class at Tokyo 2020 Paralympics, managed a best lift of 126 kilogram, one clear of 10. At least we have a bit of some cheery news after all the gloom, like I had said earlier. One thing about Nigeria is that in as much as we might have lots of instability, lots of insecurity, somehow we seem to excel in our sporting arena.
Yeah, apart from, the sporting arena, typical Nigerian, the Nigerian is resilient. If you
He's a
want
go-getter.
you want to define a Nigerian, you say very resilient, very determined, not giving up. I mean, if you look at the conditions and all of the things that are going on in our country, it's enough to break a lot of people.
True.
Some people say, I mean, there were times where the breakup of this country had been predicted over times. If what we are going through in this country, you shifted away to others, I'm not sure they can actually carry it. But you see,
Nigerians
I'm
are
hoping
strong
that
people.
I'm hoping that we pay attention, to sports and sporting activities, and to this is a good one.
It's
like you
seemingly one
rightly
thing that
mentioned.
just binds us as a people, because over time we have had our shares of agitation, shares of quarrels, shares of misunderstanding. And when it comes to sporting activities, football, most of the times, and Olympics, we seem to be united along that particular line, and it's something that we should actually explore. Anyway, that's as much as we.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Statutorily mandated to ensure that there's regulation and promotion of matters affecting our waters. NIMASA bears responsibility for search and rescue, shipping development, and ship registration.
NIMASA This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
Welcome back to The Breakfast on PlusTvAfrica. Time for Off the Press, where we chat on vaccinated federal workers barred from office, seek deadline extension. That's the banner caption for the leadership this morning. You also have riders, exercise records poor compliance. Several MDAs deserted. Workers crowd vaccination centers. And federal government confirms 3 cases of Omicron variant. Nigeria once again vaccine equality at the UN General Assembly. These are riders you find underneath the bold caption. Away from COVID and Omicron variant. You also find why bandits were declared terrorists. The Attorney General of the Federation is quoted on that. Kogi gives late Escott's family 2 houses. And you also have Fire Me, Coker. Others decry worsening living condition. Nigeria, South Africa to strengthen ties. That's also another bold caption this morning on the Leadership newspaper. And Senate chiefs aviation ministry over Nigeria Eagle. That's so much we can take at this point in time.
All right, away from that, we'll move on to the Daily Independent implementation. Buhari travels to Dubai to attend Expo 2020. All right, just beside that to the right, APC, ADP, and 9 other parties challenge Soludo's victory. Well, the rider, quote, dismisses suit seeking Soludo's removal as governor-elect. Well, the rider there. All right, moving on, Saraki-led Senate failed by confirming Malami as minister. That's according to Adeyeye. Says Ministry of Justice filled with incompetent lawyers. Those are the stories you can find on the front page of the Daily Independent.
Away from the Daily Independent, let's check out the Daily Trust newspaper. And the bold caption says, COVID-19 Omicron. Buhari 10 ministers jet out to Dubai. How Nigeria dictated 3 cases. Ramaphosa visits successful despite scare. That's what the president is quoted to say. Of course, the president of South Africa visiting Nigeria. Federal government's directive flops as unvaccinated workers access offices and ignores emotion threatening national unity. Sultan is quoted. It's also another caption you find on the Daily Trust this morning. Electoral Act, what will guide us in replying Buhari's letter? INEC is quoted on that. And death toll in Kano boat tragedy rises to 29. ISWAP abducts 6 Borno officials. And despite receiving millions monthly, FCT Council Chair denies teachers allowances. This is some of the headlines on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
And finally, we head up to the Punch newspaper. Omicron is a virologist. Africa hoodlums in 200 million naira needed to refit grounded Navy flagship. External reserves lost $610 million in November. CBN battles to save Naira. Those are the stories you can find on the Punch newspaper this Thursday morning.
All right, let's have Ezekiel Yaituk share his thoughts on the headlines. Good morning, Ezekiel Yaituk. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, there are several things to consider in that headline. The very first is our national position and what we should expect from the nationals, what we should expect from the citizens. And I cannot see anything short of come in that rather than dig deep, set ourselves back and look at what we should do. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, with 10 ministers, are jetting out of the country for an expo. Where are our priorities? How do we really think as a government? That just gives the average Nigerian that, bros, leave that thing, they're serious. If you're serious, or go for their house, maybe we see what to do. He's leaving the country, he's leaving with 10 ministers for an expo for a man that has less than 2 years in office. I think that this is a time for the president to embark on what he calls completion agenda, where he shot just some months back or some weeks back. He was going around the country looking for investors. Which investor is going to come to your country in a country that didn't have succession and invest less than 2 years to your leaving office? I mean, who's going to do that? Who thinks that way? I mean, where these guys coming? The government is trying to do in Akwa Ibom State, and I hope they are doing it right. Where you sit down and you profile all your projects into 3 categories. You have the one that you call the necessities, that's the must do. You have the ones that are the general, which means that, well, you complete it no matter what it is, because you are looking at the funds available to you. The necessities are things you must do, salaries, everything. The cost between the necessities and the legacy, when you put them together, you've done due diligence, you've done what you call financial engineering, you've done everything. Then you now bring your team. That's why I like one of those places. You have a man, Fayemi says, if you're interested in 2023, please leave my office between now and 18th of December, because he wants to put in place what he calls a finishing team. This is what my president should be doing now, and not when you have this variant that is coming out and is likely to be more deadly. He's carrying 10 ministers, and we know how Nigerians operate. Lawless, with all due respect. We don't use a very hard word. For me to understand and for Nigerians to understand why Mr. President thinks that this is the very best time to jet out for expo with 10 ministers. That's the first thing. At the same time, you have a major pushback, because the way we operate, especially like in Nigeria, if there wasn't this hand of divinity that gives this pushback, I think that it would be a very sorry state or sorry story. Well, that's my take on the vaccination and our GAP president.
All right, let's slide over to the Daily Independent. Their lead...
In those days, there was a drink called Ovaltine. So when they say the day is something, you don't drink over tea. The man say, I never drink tea. You they ask whether I don't drink over tea, you know? So we are talking of 5G technology. The 4G that we have already, to what extent have we fully utilized it? I know of all the benefits of the 5G and all that, speed, capacity, capabilities, and all that, the sciences and the technologies that come with it, innovations. But I think that we are still in certain places working on 2Gs. Remember when we were talking about this electoral act and the transmission, you know what the problem was? That in some places we have 2Gs. We don't even have 3Gs, not to talk of 4Gs. Now we are saying 5G. So I don't know how that should make a bold headline. I don't know. I'm not a media person in that sense. But I don't think that is my headache right now. The 4G is able to do some of the things that we need to do. And when there was a bidding, only one company bidded for it. And you can't have such monopoly. So I think that the other companies is not because they could not bid for it. I doubt that there's any of those other companies, the other big 2 or 3, that could not bid for it. I think they've just looked at the market, looked at the investment, looked at the infrastructure requirements, looked at the market, I say again, and discovered that that may not be a very, very sound investment. And they are not national, they are business. So their own is to look at the bottom line, the profit margin. And so long as they're not convinced, they're not going to put their money there, especially when the federal government puts a lot of tariff or a lot of, in the bidding process. It doesn't come cheap. So I think that that's the list of our problems, so we can move on.
All right, let's check out the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. On the Daily Trust, there are concerns from the Sultan that ignorance, emotion threatening national unity.
It's not ignorance, it's not emotions, it is politicians. When you come and sit down and look at the root of our problems, you will discover that it all goes back to politics. Nigerians don't really care about religion. They don't really care about tribes. That's the truth. Nigerians really couldn't care less where you come from and your religion. We don't. But politicians need a divide and rule approach for them to achieve what they want to achieve. Everything runs down to politics in Nigeria. And the day that we wake up and interrogate our recruitment process and have a different understanding. For a while now, I've taken up that fight, one-man battle on good governance in this country. I've gone around schools, I've gone around churches. Just this weekend, the Redeem in Akwa Ibom, a section of it, got all their youths and everything, and I spent hours with them, just enlightening them on politics. And I think we need to bring this conversation to the national level. We are sitting down here doing analysis of politics that has become, commercialized. So governance is now a contract between willing buyers and willing sellers to entrepreneurs, so to speak, or business people who come in, exchange the vote money on election day and the electioneering processes for 4 years of them recovering their investment, making profit, and making more money to keep and give you another money during election period. That's what we have. In terms of governance, we've lost it completely. And I told people, government is your life. Put in an envelope and hand it over to a man. And I gave a certain illustration. This would have come and they tell you all sorts of stories. This man doesn't like you, that. What are they looking for? The responsibility is ours to do that due diligence because you carry a goat. You put glasses on the goat. You put face mask on the goat. You put a cap on the goat. You put a tie on the goat and a big jacket on it. And then you give it your raw yam to keep for you. A sane man does not eat raw yam. And you come back and the yam has been completely eaten and you're angry. Why? Because you didn't know that it wasn't a man, it was a goat that you gave your raw yam to eat, to keep. At the end of the day, the problem is not with the goats that ate your yam. It is with you that refused to find out who you were dealing with a goat. Leadership recruitment process and knowing that there's something at stake on the line. I think that when we put all these things together, we will be able to know what our national concerns are, whether it is ignorance, yes, to a great extent, or it is emotion. Emotion is inspired by something, which could be ignorance. So between ignorance and emotion, I think that ignorance is one that they are using emotion to fuel our ignorance. So the time has come for us to wake up. I tend to agree with the Sultan that ignorance is one of our biggest problems, because emotion comes from your not knowing that, look, that guy is just trying to upset you so that he can leave and so he can take the whole thing. When you know that, if he tries to upset you, it's time for you to make customs, police, they heard trade facilitation at ports, because trade facilitation, beg a man to help you, everything is moving seamlessly. At our ports, our customs, our plea of the country, thinks about the essence of the office. When a man understands what the office is all about, a man who wants to get into an office today, a politician, you and I know their prime mentality. We know it. We know it. And we play the fool, and the fools end up playing us. I've contested twice for the governorship of my state. Why would I beg you to serve you? I'm not God. Am I too much? Guys, come. PA, I beg give you money. They say, you are a leader, you are a leader, you are a leader, you are a leader. They sing for him. They are happy with him. And he gives them peanuts. He gets their mandate. He gets to the seat. He's clueless on what the seat is all about. He has no understanding of the essence of governance. If you ask him, what is chapter 2, section 14, subsection 2B of the Constitution, which is the guiding principle, which is the what sets you out? Do you understand me? He has no clue. And he said, the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. And he just looks at you and like, bros, leave that thing. Did you understand that when you collected my money? Did you understand that when I have debt to pay? Did you understand that when you asked me to land? Did you ask that when you asked for transport? Do you understand all those things? I beg, without saying it, from his eyes, you can read that he's just leave it. He should get out, let him make his money and leave. I think that the time has come where you and I really need to sit down and discover that the most blessed nation on earth, and I say that with every sense of responsibility, has become the poverty capital of the world. And the Bible says an error, that princes are on foot and servants are on horsebacks.
All right, let's also check out the Punch newspaper this morning, and the fact that according to the CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, we might probably just have to battle to save the Naira. Now, he says external reserve lost $610 million in November. That's according to the CBN. And of course, there's a need to save the Naira.
You see, I'm not an economist. I do not pretend to be one. I'm an architect, and I think within that sphere, I understand what I'm doing very well. But even as an architect, I do understand, as somebody who wanted to be or who wants to be governor and still wants to be in government or be a governor, I do understand that there is what they call division of labor. I believe that there is reason why you have a central bank. There's a reason why the central bank is expected to be autonomous. There's a reason where you have Ministry of Finance as different from the central bank. There's a reason why Ministry of Finance is under the presidency, whereas the central bank is an independent, autonomous body. Right now, I cannot draw a line between our monetary policies and our fiscal policies. I can't. I do not know who is handling what. The central bank gets into trade, they get into agriculture, they seem to be a mini government on their own. And as a result, when you go into areas that are not really your prime responsibility, what you start to have is a lot of conflicting flip-flop. Short, we don't even know how you determine the value of the Naira. We don't even know the differential between that of the government and then the parallel market, which is almost 150 naira. I don't see, they've not been able to give me the rationale behind that. And when you talk in terms of foreign reserves, it has to do with the amount of money you are using to shore up the naira, because you have given the naira an artificial reserve, okay? But you can see before it came, you can see where they are going, you can see why they are doing what